It's 7 o'clock. It's the 14th day of December, 2020, and this is a regularly scheduled town board meeting. First order of business is roll call. Mrs. Green,
Here.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Present.
Mr. Manley is not here yet, and Mr. Lobiondo
Here.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Here.
Okay. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of
of
the
the United States of America and to the republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice for
justice
For
for all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Mr. Supervisor, any changes to the agenda?
The only change I have here is on number 13 under the police vehicles. Looks like we're going to do a budget transfer and then purchase the vehicles. So there'll be a 1 and a 2 or an A and a B on 13.
Is that where 14B is? Hey, Scott. Hey,
Well, you know what? It's also included under 14B. Let's just approve both transfers because one, he's just transferring within his own budget to buy the police cars. And then there's a transfer into his budget. So I think we could do an A and a B.
Okay.
And also do the other one too, Joe. Okay.
Okay, very good. Any other changes?
I have none.
Okay.
No.
Next week going on to item 5, approval of audit.
All right. So we're looking for a motion to approve this audit in the amount of $1,190,707.83.
So move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 6, which is the continuation of a public hearing, introductory local law 5 of 2020 with regards to records retention.
And Joseph, I know the original public hearing was properly advertised and this continual one as well.
Well, this continued one was advertised on November 30th on the website, and it was posted in Town Hall on November 30th. The continuation was also advertised in the Mid-Hudson Times on December 2nd and in the Orange County Post on December 4th.
All right, very good. Thank you. So then with that, I'll look for a motion to open this public hearing, public records.
So move.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to reopen this public hearing at 7:03 PM. Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes. So as you remember, this public hearing had to deal with record retention and how long a town should keep records. And basically what we're doing is going with the town, the state, at their recommendations. So, but real quickly, Joseph, can you give us some changes here that really changed?
Certainly.
Sure, thank you.
Yes, one change is the addition of a new category of contractor, which is called a disadvantaged owned business, which supplements the existing minority-owned business and woman-owned business. Another change is an increase in retention period for child abuse reports relating to sexual offenses to age 55 of the victim. And that's based on the Child Victims Act. Another change that they entered is application of alcoholic beverage license. Previously, any renewal for an alcoholic beverage license, the town clerk's office had to be notified. That rule has been taken away, And now only new alcoholic beverages licenses are to be submitted to the town. That's a sampling.
Very good. Thank you, Joseph. If anyone in the public wants to comment on this at this time, I think you could physically raise your hand if you have a question. We'll let you in. Do you have anybody else there? Okay, so it looks like there isn't any public comment. And what we're going to do tonight is close the public hearing because we have to wait an additional 10 days to approve it because it's a Zoom meeting. So how about board members? Betty, have anything on this?
A question or to just close the hearing? Which are we doing?
Well, if you have a comment before we close it.
I have a question. Joe, what, is there any cutoff point that you have permission to destroy records or anything like that? Or is our records from 1902 still there?
No, I have various parameter cutoff times for different types of records, but nothing significant has changed in the retention times.
Okay, what about, say, death certificates or anything like that that get filed with us?
As an example, death certificates and marriage licenses have to be maintained permanently.
Thank you very much. I was thinking about the people who are tracing their ancestry.
Okay, so with that, does Paul? Any
No, I
comment
have
on this?
nothing, Gil.
Okay.
No.
And Scott is not in the meeting yet?
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, okay, because I couldn't see you, Scott.
Yeah, I
So
kept
the record
calling
should
it
show
through.
you're here.
Uh,
Any
very-
comment on this one?
Yeah, last month we did have the public hearing on this. Some questions were brought up. And I believe Mr. Petty told us it was like 700 pages
Is that?
and gave us a,
Mhm.
what do you call it there? A briefing, not a briefing.
A summary.
Yeah, summary. And I noticed it was only like 3 or 4 items that shortened the time. Everything was either the same or lengthened the time. So it
Yeah,
doesn't really
yeah.
change much at all.
All right, thank you, Scott. Anthony, do you have anything
No, I have nothing
on
further.
this topic? Okay. So then we'll look for a motion to close this public hearing.
So move.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to close the public hearing at 7:07. Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Paul's muted. Paul, you got to unmute yourself.
I don't see Paul in here.
Oh, I see Paul, but he's muted. Scott, can you text Paul, tell him to unmute himself if he can't hear us? I don't know.
Give it a shot.
Oh, he's
Hello.
unmuted. We
There
just
we
need
go.
a vote on that motion to close the public
Yes.
hearing. Okay,
Thank
good.
thank you. Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes. All right, thank you. Well, not being 7:15, we ought to move on.
Okay,
To another-
next, okay. It's not 7:15 yet, like you said, Mr. Supervisor, so we'll move on to item 8, which is the Desmond Estate, use of Parkland Trust money for purchase.
Yes. So I'm asking for a motion to expend $750,000 from the Parkland Trust Fund. That's account T37A.0885. $700,000 will be used to purchase the Desmond Estate, and $50,000 will go towards other expenses involved in the closing. The Kaplan Family Foundation will reimburse the town $700,000 from a $1 million grant for this purchase. So I'm looking for somebody to make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second your motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 9. The first item is approval to solicit bids for removal and disposal of alum sludge for the Chadwick Lake and Delaware Aqueduct water treatment plants.
All right, so we're looking for a motion so our water superintendent can go out to bid on those two items. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes,
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Now, you approved both of them, Mr. Supervisor, or just the removal of the alum sludge? Because
Well-
next we have the water treatment chemicals.
All right, so let's make a motion to approve bidding the water treatment chemicals as well.
so
Someone
move,
want to make that motion?
so move.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes,
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 10 for buildings and grounds, approval to start process to hire full-time custodian.
All right, so I'm going to look for a motion to start the process to hire a full-time custodial worker, I think is the proper civil service term, custodial worker. And that'll be for the year 2021. So if someone wants to make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes,
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
And next we go on to item 11 for the engineering department. Item A, Chadwick Lake Filter Plant Resiliency Improvements.
All right, again, our town engineer, James Osborne, is requesting that we go out for bid for this Chadwick Lake plant resiliency improvements. So, and again, we have the funding for this through a grant, but, so does someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
second your motion.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
yes,
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 11B. Excuse me, Consolidated Water District Budget Transfer.
Okay. And again, James Osborne is requesting two budget transfers here. Maybe I'll read them real quick. Based on the availability of funds left in the 2020 budget, I'm requesting town board approval of the following. And he's looking for, from the interfund transfer to the Colden Park water main improvements of $200,000. And if I remember, hopefully this year, coming year, we're going to sleeve some water lines there. So should we do this in two parts, Joe? Let's get a motion on that one first.
Certainly, if you like.
Okay, so let's have a motion on that first transfer.
I'll make the motion.
and I'll
I'll second
second. it. Go ahead, Anthony.
I think Anthony got it.
I'm sorry, did Councilman Lobiondo, did you make the motion?
did. I seconded the motion.
I made the motion.
Oh, thank you.
Councilman Manley.
Any further discussion?
No,
Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes,
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Okay, next we go
All
on
right,
to
and the
the
other-
second transfer.
Well, let's say part two on this. Again, it's from another interfund transfer to Chadwick Lake filter plant improvements, and that's $225,000. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
second it. Let Scott second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
yes,
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Mr. Supervisor, it's now 7:15. If you'd like to go on to the public hearing for item
Yeah.
7.
Has Mark Taylor joined? Okay. Let's go to the public hearing. Joseph.
Okay. Item 7, public hearing for introductory local law 3 of 2020 for the solar energy pilot.
All right, has this public hearing been properly advertised, Joseph?
This had been posted on the town website since November 30th. It was posted in Town Hall also on November 30th. It was advertised in the Mid-Hudson Times on December 2nd and in the Orange County Post on December 4th.
Very good, thank you. So if it's properly advertised, a board member make a motion to open this public hearing?
I'll make a motion, to open the public hearing.
I'll second
I'll
the motion.
second
Pitch again, Paul.
it.
Mhm.
Motion made and seconded to open this public hearing at 7:16 PM.
All right, thank you. I'm going to ask Mark Taylor to give us a little rundown on this law. And we really spent a lot of time on this one too, but Mark, if you could.
New York State real property law exempts solar facilities and other passive energy sources from real property taxation for a period of 15 years. Municipalities have a couple of options, however. They can opt out of that exemption. And in that case, these solar facilities are subject to real property taxation during that 15-year period. The towns of New Windsor and Crawford in Orange County have opted out. Certain school districts, including Walk Hill and Valley Central, have also opted out. The town board considered that, but the difficulty that presents is that then all solar facilities, including those installed by homeowners, are potentially subject to taxation if the value of the property is increased due to the solar installation. There's another option under real property tax law, and that is to impose a requirement that the owners of solar facilities enter into payment in lieu of tax agreements with the taxing entity, in this case, the town. That option affords greater flexibility to exempt certain owners, and this local law would provide that residential facilities, which are defined as having a capacity of less than 0.5 kilowatts, are exempt from the pilot requirement. This law also exempts, or has a de minimis exemption for facilities that produce 0.5 megawatts of power or less from the pilot requirement. So the owner of any facility that is larger than that will be required to notify the town of their intention to install the facility and to enter into a pilot agreement with the town, which requires that they make annual payments in lieu of taxes to the town. The amount of those annual payments is established by the local law at $3,600 per megawatt over the 0.5 megawatt exemption. And it's will be prorated if there's a fractional capacity. That payment will be required to be made annually for 15 years, at which point the solar facility comes off the exemption roll. In any case, the payment will be subject to a 3% increase annually, and there will be a 5% late fee if the owner does not make the payment in time. Payment is due at the same time as the town taxes are due.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I see, there was a question asked to Joe Petty of whether this entire law should be amongst the items on the website. Yes, Joe?
It is.
Yes, they are. Okay. Does, Bill, John, you had a question a minute ago. Do you still have a question? After you heard you could unmute, John?
No, that,
Okay,
that provided me with
explanation.
to look at it, and as you say, there's.
Yeah, absolutely. The law's up there now, and you got 10 days till when the minutes are posted, so it'll be a while.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else have a comment on this public hearing and this topic? If you do, raise your hand. We could see you. Is any board member? Betty, any comment on this?
Not right now, thank you.
Paul?
No, I
Rogerio?
don't have any comments.
Okay. Scott,
No, I'm
any
good.
comment? Okay. Anthony?
No
Lobiano?
comment.
Okay, and I don't, and neither at this point, so we'll look for a motion to close this public hearing.
So move.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to close this public hearing at 7:30 PM. Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiando,
Yes.
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Next, we're jumping back to item 12 for animal control for some T94 withdrawals. The first one involves the Walden Animal Clinic.
All right, so Cheryl Cunningham again from the T94 account, which is the donation account, is looking for $235 to pay Walden Animal Clinic. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second your motion.
Any discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
yes,
Mr. Lobiando,
Yes.
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes.
The next T94 withdrawal involves the Animal Rights Alliance.
All right, again, Cheryl Cunningham, Animal Control Officer from the T94 account, donation account. She's looking for $220 to pay to Tara, which is the Animal Rights Alliance. So I want to make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiando,
Yes.
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes.
And the third T94 withdrawal involves Flannery Animal Hospital.
All right, again, Cheryl Cunningham, Animal Control Officer, asking to withdraw $32.35 from the T94 account to Flannery Animal Hospital. Somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiando,
Yes.
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 13 for the police department. Item 13A is a budget transfer.
All right, so let's do a transfer from account 3120.5100 to account 3120.5200. And what is the amount that he's transferring here?
$47,622.
double that, right?
it's for 2 police cars.
Oh, okay.
95,244.
What is it, times 2?
95,244.
Okay, so that's the motion.
I'll
I'll
make,
make the,
Somebody made a motion.
I made the motion.
Okay, Scott, and who seconded it? I'm doing your job now, Joe. Who
I'll
seconded
second
it?
it.
All right, Paul.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiando,
Yes.
and Mr. Piacquadio.
Yes.
Now we go to item 13B, which is the approval of the purchase.
Right, so he's requesting to authorize the purchase of two 2021 Ford Interceptors, police interceptor utility vehicles fully equipped from Headstead Ford. Each vehicle costs $47,622. And the funding will become from account 3120.5100, which we already done transfer on.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second your motion.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes,
Now we go on to item 14. Let me turn my lights back. Item 14A, close out of Delaware Aqueduct Treatment Filter Plant.
all right, so here again, he has some transfers. And I'm just gonna say they're as presented here, and they should be on the internet too, under additional items, so. Someone want to make a motion that to close out of the DAT filter plant with these prices as shown.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes,
Then next we go on to item 14B, funding of capital projects for police cars.
okay, and here again, we talk about that $96,000. And it's gonna be funded as a capital project on those police cars. Again, as presented of 14B.
I'll make that motion.
second your motion.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes,
Last, we have item C, which is a budget transfer.
all right, and again, I'm gonna put this one down as presented. There's some money that being transferred actually for the computer expense to purchase the computers tonight. So that's gonna be as presented on 14C.
I'll make your,
go ahead. I'll make,
Councilman Manley made the motion. Do I have a second?
yes,
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
yes,
Mr. Manley,
yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes,
Next, we go on to item 15, for data processing, the purchase of computers.
all right. So on this one, looking to purchase 11 Optiplex 3070 SSF MLK computers and 11 22-inch monitors at a cost, including the monitor, of $902.31 for each, for a total of $925.41. 7 will be for the Recreation Department, which will come out of account A1680.5200. That'll be $6,700. For the filter plant, still be 4 computers, 2 in each filter plant, from account F8330.4002.5466. That'll be $2,000, and there'll be another $2,000 from the other filter plant account, 833040015466, and that's also $2,000. And just to note, these computers that are being replaced were put in service in either 2005 and some in 2011. So someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the
I'll
motion.
second it. Go ahead, Anthony.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Okay, next we go on to item 16. Item A, request for speed limit study for Route 9W.
Okay, so this resolution will go to the state, and we're asking for a study for a speed limit study on Route 9W between the intersections of North Plank Road, New York State Route 32 and Chestnut Lane. So again, this is a request for a study. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll
I'll
make the
make the
motion.
motion.
Councilman Lobiondo, did you make that motion?
Thank you, Joe.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Councilman Ruggiero seconded. Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
Yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Next, we go on to item 16B, which is opposition to Central Hudson rate increase.
All right. So Central Hudson has another rate increase on the board, trying to get it approved. And we're putting a resolution to oppose that rate increase. And that's what this resolution is attached. And it will go out to everyone necessary, including our state representatives. So someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes,
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes,
Mr. Manley,
yes,
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes.
Could
Next,
I
we
make
go
a
on.
could I make a request? Excuse me, Joe. When we send that to the proper channels, could we also send a copy of it to Association of Towns in Albany?
We will
Sure.
do that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Good idea, Betty. Thank you.
Okay, next we go on to item 17 for the assessor. Settlement of tax certiorari for PI Blast LLC and Newburgh Acquisition LLC.
And this property is actually the closed Rite Aid that's over by the Mid Valley Mall, whatever. Mark, you could just give us a quick rundown on this one too? Is Mark still out there?
Okay.
Okay.
The reception's,
Oh, wow.
reception is at the top. You can hear me? Hello?
Yeah, okay, Mark, he seemed to hear you right now, whatever you're doing, stay with it maybe.
Okay, I'll try. As Joe mentioned, this is the strip retail property on North Plank Road. In the former writing group store. There are tax certiorari cases going back to 2016. In that year, it was owned by PI Blast. Subsequently, for the remaining years through 2020, it was owned by Newburgh Acquisitions. The settlement provides for reductions for each of the years in question. They range from $200,000 in the 2020 year. The reduction will be the largest amount, and it will be approximately $440,000. The total, that's an assessed value. So obviously market value is greater based in the assessed value based on the multiplication by the equalization and assessment rate. The total refund liability under the settlement will be approximately $13,000 and some change. That's versus claimed refund liability over the years in question of a total of $93,000 in change. This settlement is a bit different from what the board has seen in the past in that there is no 3-year freeze on either the owner bringing the action or the town changing the assessment. The town likely will be changing the assessment in the coming year due to the fact that the Ready Coffee building has been constructed on the site. pursuant to site plan amendment. Kathy Jobney advises that because of the COVID-19 economic impacts, property owners are increasingly reluctant to agree to the 3-year freeze that is otherwise provided for by statute. So I anticipate that in future settlements that may be the case as well, that as part of the settlement, there's either a lesser lock on the assessed value or none.
Okay, Mark, very good.
It appears you're you're able to hear that.
Okay. So, any comments, Betty, on this settlement?
No comments, except I
Okay,
contact the fire district in question to make them aware of it.
thank you. Paul, you have any comment on this?
No, I have no comments, Gil. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
The only thing I'm saying, I know I spoke to Kathy today because, I mean, there is a new business going there. So hopefully we can get it
Right.
back up a little next year.
Well, once it's up and running, they get a CO, we might be able to do something there. Anthony?
Have no comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we'll look a motion to approve this settlement.
Don't move.
I'll second it.
Councilman Lobiondo, did you second it, or was that Councilman Ruggiero?
That was Paul.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes,
Next, we go on to item 18 for announcements.
all right. I
I
want to
have
just
one.
put, okay, Betty, go ahead. You want to go? Go ahead.
To wish everyone a safe, healthy holiday time and New Year. That's
Thank
it.
you. Scott?
The same with the holidays, and thank you for we had our first menorah drive-by menorah lighting tonight, and it was a lot of fun. And thank you.
Very
for
good.
coming out.
It was. I agree with you. I guess next year, hopefully it'll build each year. Paul, you have anything out there to say?
One that our water and sewer department, new location is on 299 Guinea Avenue, or Gardnertown Road, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it made me
And-
think for a while.
And,
Okay.
they're there open for any water or sewer issues. Also, stay safe with, the numbers rising with COVID. Wear your mask whenever you can. And Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah.
Good. Thank you, Paul. Anthony?
I have no comments. I just want to wish everybody a happy and safe holiday season. Thank you.
And I want to do the same to everyone too. And I, happy holidays. And I really want to tell everybody, be careful because bad weather might be coming Wednesday. So I'm sure we'll get through it, but just be careful. So with that, we're going to open it to the public. Anyone in the audience wants to ask a question on any topic. Let's try just physically raising your hand, and I think Robert will let them in. So if anyone has anything, you see anybody, Bobby?
Larry Cosman.
Hi, it's Bill Feder.
Okay.
I think you have me.
Okay, good. Bill, go ahead.
Okay, all right. A few questions. On the resolution regarding Central Hudson, does that also go to the Public Utility Commission? That notice?
Yes, it does. Yes, it
It does.
does.
Okay,
Absolutely,
okay.
yes.
The mall over here with the tax certiorari issue, when he was before the planning board, the property owner had promised to upgrade that whole facility to get, not as a condition of approval for that coffee shop, but as a kind of an incentive, I think, for the board. He had promised to revamp that whole place. So hopefully some of this money can be attributed to upgrading that facility. I know you have no leverage in that, but
Right.
maybe
right.
he will listen to public comments. Finally, I know there's been some discussion among the board about trying to improve the communication system for all of the online meetings. And I'm just curious if there's been any advancement in that regard.
really. I could tell you on this one, there's been some zoning board meetings that there was problems, but they weren't using, they're using Zoom. But what they were doing is trying to get all the members like on one channel of Zoom.
I'm
And
fully aware.
because of
yes.
that, yeah, it's because of that, the microphone and that computer couldn't pick up somebody further away. But we now have a regular mic, right, Bobby, that'll be halfway located. And if the members speak up a little bit, we should be okay. As far as Zoom and improving what we've got, I don't know what options we could go to. You know, it depends on the internet and how good an internet connection you have. And that's about it. But I think Zoom is very popular with many towns that they're using right now. If someone knows of something better, I mean, let us know and we'll be more than happy to look into it.
I'll get a communications person to talk to you.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. Okay, anyone else?
Larry Cosman.
Cosman has a question? Okay,
Yes, Larry Cosman, 132 Calandria Road Extension in town. Mr. Supervisor, I've talked to you in the past. Still looking for some answers on the improvements or repairs on Calandria Road. I know you've had an ongoing discussion with one of the residents there for the damage to the road. But the rest of the residents were all suffering as a result of no improvements. It's full of potholes. The town actually comes in and I don't think they're totally aware of where the town road ends. So they don't even fix some of the potholes. They're not putting anything in them. But there's one section that was kind of improved or added on in the 70s with probably just tar and chip. And as a result of the heavy trucks in there a couple years ago, the road was pretty well destroyed. And there may have been agreements or something to the effect of who was going to improve the road. Town certainly hasn't done anything in the interim, and neither has the parties involved.
okay.
So we're
Well, I
riding
think-
over a dirt road practically for
Yeah,
a few hundred feet. We patched it. We put a lot of millings on the private road, and we've used a truckload of them in that area, filling holes over the last year. Of course, they don't last that long.
all right.
Kind of
Well,
wondering where the town may be at as far as getting anything done.
I will get with the highway superintendent. Perhaps he can come up there and meet with you. Wasn't there another issue too about a piece of land with Greg Pascal as well? Has that been straightened out or not the case?
But no, that's down on Merritt Lane. I'm talking about Calandria Road off of Frozen Ridge.
Okay.
And that was
Okay.
Lawrence's. They were doing had a lot of trucks coming in with fill material a few
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah, okay. We had a meeting up there too one day.
Oh, yeah,
in the
you've been up
rain.
there a couple different
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
But, you know, this all going on now for quite a while and there's been no changes in it. And as they were kind of beating up our vehicles driving over a town road, it probably looked worse
Yeah.
than even Oak Street for a long time. It was a very nice looking road. Now it's
Well,
a lot
Oak
better
Street
than
looks good
Calandria.
today though. Okay. You've seen Oak Street recently, right? It really looks good today, I think, that they repaved Oak Street.
Oh, yeah, Calandria, Oak Street is beautiful.
Yep. Yeah. All right. We'll see what we can do. I know exactly what you're talking about now, Bill. So Larry. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good holiday.
You too.
Anyone else?
Lauren.
Lauren?
No.
I see a hand. It's not Lauren though. That looked like Lauren, but go ahead.
It's on it. Hi, we're on Lauren's computer.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if you received the petition from the residents on Rockwood Drive regarding the special use
Right.
permit for
Anything I get,
firearm dealership.
if it's a ZBA thing, I forwarded right over to them, which I think you already did. So I think they got it multiple times. Okay.
Yeah, they got it. I was just
Yeah.
making sure that you received it also, because I know you're CC'd on it, and you know, it's caused quite an uproar up here amongst
Right,
residents.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else with anything?
John Bowser.
Okay, John, you have a question or is he
He's
unmuted?
saying no. He's
No.
saying
Okay, no questions, he says. And we're good?
we got Richie Knapp.
Richie Knapp?
if he wants to
Do you
unmute.
have a question, Rich? You can unmute yourself. We can unmute you if you have a question. If not,
He's staying muted. And then there's ET,
who do we got, Bob?
capital ET.
ET?
He's here now. He muted again.
ET is muted right now?
He unmuted and remuted.
No question.
No questions? All right, thank you. Anyone else out there, Bob? No?
That's it.
Okay.
Well, it's Jimmy Pursuti, but I don't
Jimmy
think-
Pursuti? You have
I got
anything?
nothing.
All
No,
right,
my-
Jim. Okay.
That's everyone.
All right, so if there's no other comments, and we'll make a motion to adjourn. Someone want to make a motion?
So move.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn at 7:54 PM. Mrs. Green,
Yes.
Mr. Ruggiero,
Yes.
Mr. Manley,
Yes.
Mr. Lobiondo,
Yes.
and Mr. Piaquadio.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Have a good holiday.
Hey, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Happy holidays.